I canceled a $70,000 wedding 5 days before it happened after my fiancé slipped me a contract from absolute hell. Imagine staring across your kitchen table, just 5 days before your wedding, as the woman you love slides a legal document towards you. Not a thoughtful card, not a sweet note, but a cold, calculated contract designed to strip you of everything you've ever built. Asterisk, asterisk, my jaw hit the floor, and in that moment, the entire carefully constructed illusion of our future shattered. I'm Jake, I'm 35, and last week, I pulled the plug on a $70,000 wedding because my fiancée, Claire, tried to sell off 20% of my company to her parents. 5 days. That's how long Claire gave me to prove I was serious about building a future together. Her words, not mine. But it wasn't about love or commitment or two people genuinely wanting to wake up next to each other for the next 50 years. It was about control. Financial control. And it came wrapped in legal jargon, tucked inside a glossy manila envelope, like some twisted Hallmark special gone horribly wrong. It was the kind of moment that makes you replay every single conversation, every I love you, every touch you thought was real, wondering how much of it was genuine and how much was just groundwork for the con. Claire's family had this old money energy, mixed with what felt like reality TV delusions. Her dad, William, wore cufflinks to breakfast like he was attending a board meeting at 7 a.m. Seriously, scrambled eggs in a press shirt. Her mom, Patricia, once told me my $8,000 watch looked cute, like something a guy who is still working his way up would wear. Her exact words. She delivered it with this little, tight smile that was supposed to seem supportive, but felt more like a pat on the head you give a dog who finally learned to sit. And despite all that polish and pretend sophistication, they were bleeding money. Quietly. Desperately. I should have seen it. The signs were everywhere. The way William would change the subject whenever real estate prices came up. Patricia's smile tightening when someone mentioned their latest vacation. I should have paid more attention, but love, man, love is something else. Claire was this perfect dose, stunning, sharp-tongued, and just sugar-coated enough to distract me from the red flags flapping in the breeze like parade banners I simply refused to acknowledge. I genuinely convinced myself she was different from her parents, that she saw me for who I was, not for what I'd built. Then came that Tuesday. I'd just spent 13 brutal hours at my warehouse, dealing with a vendor nightmare that almost cost me a major contract. My team and I had been sifting through wrong parts, making angry phone calls, and I was doing damage control with a very unhappy client. I walked in, exhausted, dreaming of dinner, maybe a hug, possibly some bad Netflix and comfortable silence. The kind of evening where just being in the same room is enough. What I got instead was a cold stare across the kitchen island and that envelope. Claire was perched on a bar stool, hands folded over the manila envelope like she was presenting a business proposal. Looking back, she absolutely was. "You need to sign this before Friday," she said. Casual. Almost bored. Like she was reminding me to pick up dry cleaning. Pick up suits. Confirm seating chart. Sign over 1/5 of your company. I opened it. The words blurred at first, but then they sharpened into horrifying focus. 20% equity in Atlas Industrial Supply transferred to William and Patricia Harrington. Non-voting shares, but with audit and veto rights on any transaction over $10,000. Basically, I'd need a permission slip to buy office toilet paper. I'd need their approval for basic business decisions in my own company. The company I'd built from nothing, with my own 2 hands. I read the clause 3 times. 3 times because I simply couldn't believe what I was seeing. There were provisions that would let them review my books quarterly, force me to justify any major purchase, even block hiring decisions. I actually laughed out loud. A hollow, sharp sound that escaped when my brain couldn't quite process the sheer audacity. Claire didn't laugh. "You built this business alone," she said, unnervingly calm. "But we're getting married. My parents just want to protect me. They invested in me my whole life. Private schools, college, the apartment I lived in before we met. They deserve a stake in my future, in our future." That was the moment I knew. I wasn't marrying a partner. I was merging with a hostile entity. And they thought I'd say yes because they thought I was desperate. They thought I was so in love, so invested in the wedding and the life we'd planned, that I'd sign away everything I'd built just to keep her. They had miscalculated. Badly. They had absolutely no idea what I was about to do. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a nap. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, the fan spinning like the frantic thoughts in my head. The guest room. That should have been another sign. We'd been engaged for 2 years, and I'd ended up in that guest room more nights than I could count. Always some excuse. She was stressed, she had a headache, she needed space to think about wedding details. I told myself it was normal. Couples go through phases. But lying there that night, every excuse evaporated. I realized I'd been making excuses for her for years. They wanted a piece of me. Not love, not partnership, not a shared future built on mutual respect. They wanted equity, leverage, control, a way to prop up their failing finances, using my success as a crutch. I'd become their retirement plan without even knowing it. I'd worked too hard for this. Way too hard. I started Atlas Industrial Supply when I was 23 with nothing but a maxed-out credit card, a list of potential clients I'd cold called for 3 months, and a stubborn refusal to accept that the odds were against me. I sold industrial equipment and safety supplies out of a rented storage unit with no heat in winter, no ventilation in summer, and a flickering fluorescent light that gave me headaches every day. The unit was so small I had to organize inventory by stacking boxes and memorizing where everything was. One wrong box, and the whole system collapsed. I made that mistake twice in the first month. I slept in my truck more times than I can count in those early years, surviving on gas station food and pure determination. Beef jerky and energy bars became entire food groups. I missed holidays, birthdays, family dinners. I even missed my brother's funeral once, trying to close a deal that would keep the company alive for another month. That one still haunts me, wakes me up sometimes. Danny understood, or at least he would have. He believed in what I was trying to build, even when I wasn't sure I did. But that doesn't make it any easier to live with. And now, 12 years later, 180 employees, 5 state contracts, a warehouse that actually had functioning climate control, and a break room with real furniture instead of folding chairs. We were on track to clear 8 figures this year. Everything I'd sacrificed was finally paying off. Every missed birthday, every cold night in the truck, every relationship I'd let fall apart because I couldn't give it the time it deserved. All of it was supposed to lead to this moment, to success, to security, to finally being able to breathe. Claire hadn't helped build any of it. Not one piece. She'd helped decorate my condo, picked out throw pillows, and argued about paint colors for 2 weeks. She'd hosted a few holiday parties where she floated around, charming my clients while I did the actual networking. She once brought cupcakes to the office for someone's birthday. Red velvet. The frosting was too sweet. If that counts as sweat equity, I guess I missed the memo. The next morning, I called Leah. Not just any attorney. Leah Sherman, my college friend turned corporate attorney. The woman who once sued a hedge fund and made them apologize publicly. Twice. She had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless when someone tried to pull something shady, and she loved every second of it. I'd seen her in depositions. She'd smile at opposing counsel like a shark that just smelled chum in the water. She didn't say a word when I dropped the contract on her desk. Just took it, put on her reading glasses, and started scanning. After about 5 minutes, she leaned back. That slow smile she does when she smells blood in the water spread across her face. Clause 4, she said, tapping the page with her pen. They get veto power over your expenses. You couldn't buy office supplies without asking Daddy Warbucks for permission. And look at this language here. Material business decisions require unanimous consent of all equity holders. That's not just veto power. That's operational control. And the shares? I asked, already knowing the answer was going to make me sick. They're structured in a trust with asset shielding. You'd never get them back. Not without a legal battle that would cost you more than the shares are worth. And even then, the way this is written, they could tie you up in court for years. Whoever drafted this knew exactly what they were doing. My stomach dropped. So, what do? Leah leaned forward, eyes sharp. You act. But not yet. They gave you a deadline, right? Friday. Use it. Stall. Smile. Make them think you're weak. Make them think you're considering it. That you're scared of losing the wedding, losing Claire. Then we hit back. With evidence. Hard evidence they can't spin or explain away. She passed me a legal pad. Let me be clear. This isn't a prenup argument. This isn't cold feet or wedding jitters or a disagreement about finances. This is a corporate hijack wrapped in wedding paper. She's not your fiancée anymore, Jake. She's a front for a takeover. The wedding was just the delivery mechanism. It hit me then. Claire never wanted a marriage. She wanted an acquisition. And I was the target company she'd been grooming for years. Every date, every kiss, every conversation about our future, all of it was just due diligence. Thursday night, Claire invited me to dinner at her parents' estate, to clear the air. She brushed my cheek with her hand like I was a child throwing a tantrum over something trivial. Her touch felt different now. Calculated. Let's just talk it through, she said softly. Everyone's a little emotional right now. The wedding's so close, and stress makes people say things they don't mean. My parents just want what's best for both of us. I smiled. I nodded. I told her I was strongly considering the offer, and that I just needed to understand the details better, that I wanted to hear from her father directly about his vision for how this would work. She beamed, kissed me like I'd just agreed to buy her a private island. The act was so convincing, I nearly forgot she was orchestrating a corporate coup. But I noticed the way her eyes flickered when I agreed. Relief. Like she'd been holding her breath, waiting for me to fold. So I did what Leah told me to do. I played the part. I wore a wire. Not some fancy recording device from a spy movie. Just my phone, recording, tucked into my breast pocket. Full battery. Screen off. Microphone pointed outward. It buzzed softly against my ribs while I shook William's hand and told him I appreciated the opportunity to discuss everything like reasonable adults. His handshake was firm, confident, the grip of a man who thought he'd already won. Their house was all marble countertops, fake oil paintings of horses and hunts, and furniture that looked expensive, but probably came from one of those stores that tries too hard to seem upscale. The kind of place that photographs well but feels hollow when you're actually in it. Everything was staged like a showroom. I'd been there dozens of times, but that night, I saw it differently. The cracks in the facade. The way certain rooms were closed off. The art that probably wasn't as valuable as they wanted people to believe. We sat down to filet mignon and truffle mashed potatoes. Patricia had outdone herself with the presentation. Crystal glasses, real silverware, candles flickering in arrangements that probably cost more than most people's groceries for a month. I recognized the table setting from a magazine Claire had left lying around. They were spending money they didn't have, trying to lock in the payday that my signature would provide. One last show of wealth before they admitted they were drowning. The conversation started light. Weather, sports, some story about a neighbor's renovations. Patricia asked about wedding details, honeymoon plans. All surface level. All foreplay before the real conversation. After dessert, William leaned back, dabbed his mouth with a cloth napkin, looking satisfied with himself. Confident. Like a man who'd already won and was just going through the formalities of accepting the trophy. I'm glad you're seeing the big picture, Jake, he said. This company of yours, it's got legs. Real potential. But legs need direction. They need guidance from someone who understands the bigger picture. I can provide that. Government contracts, international suppliers. I've got friends in places that could open doors you've never even knocked on. Relationships that take decades to build. I played dumb, nodding along like a kid listening to a successful uncle share business wisdom. But why now? I asked. Why before the wedding? Patricia chimed in, setting down her fork delicately. Because timing is everything, dear. The market's volatile. Nobody knows what next year will bring. We just want Claire to be protected. And frankly, we're not comfortable with her entering this marriage with no stake while you hold everything. That doesn't seem fair to anyone. Marriage is supposed to be a partnership. Fair, I said, nodding slowly, smiling. That makes sense. Just one question, William. He raised an eyebrow, took a sip from his glass. Of course. Ask anything. Is it true you're 3 months behind on your mortgage? The air changed instantly. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. The clink of his glass on the table was louder than it should have been. Patricia's smile froze, like someone had paused a video. Who told you that? He barked. His face shifted from confident patriarch to cornered animal in about half a second. Doesn't matter, I said calmly, keeping my voice steady. Friendly even. What matters is whether this 20% is about protecting Claire or about bailing you out. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks a lot like the second option. The timing, the urgency, the way this contract is structured to give you control rather than just ownership. Claire shot up from her chair, the sound of it scraping against the tile cutting through the silence like a blade. Jake, that is so out of line. You don't come into my parents' home and accuse them of something like that. No, Claire, I said, my voice still steady, not raising it, not giving them the satisfaction of seeing me lose control. What's out of line is asking me to hand over a fifth of my company to a man being sued by 2 contractors for unpaid renovations. I did my homework. Public records are interesting reading when you know where to look. County courthouse has all kinds of information if you take the time to search. William's face flushed purple. The distinguished patriarch act crumbled in real time. I watched years of carefully constructed superiority collapse like a house of cards. You ungrateful punk, he growled. You think that little supply business makes you better than us? We welcomed you into this family. We accepted you despite your background. No, I said calmly. I think running it with honesty does. I think building something real instead of pretending to have something you don't makes a difference. Claire's voice went ice cold. You have until Friday to change your mind, Jake. Or we're done. The wedding, the future, all of it gone. I stood up, pulled my phone from my pocket, pressed stop on the recording, and made sure they saw me do it. I let the realization wash over their faces. We're already done. I left their house without another word. No shouting match, no dramatic door slam, no final speech about betrayal and trust. Just me, my phone, and a mind spinning like a wheel on black ice, trying to find traction. By the time I got home, Claire's things were already half-packed. Or maybe they'd always been ready to go, like she had an exit strategy prepared before she ever handed me that envelope. Boxes labeled and neatly taped, stacked in the corner. It was like she'd been planning her departure before I ever opened that document. Maybe she always knew this was a possibility. Maybe she had a timeline all along. I sat down and stared at the boxes, her handwriting on the labels. Clothes, winter, books, bathroom stuff. So organized. So prepared. The Claire I thought I knew was spontaneous, scattered, always losing her keys, always running late. But this Claire had been ready to leave at a moment's notice. The next morning, I emailed the recording to Leah with the subject line, nuclear option. 10 minutes later, she called. No greeting, no small talk, just, oh, this is gold. Pure, unfiltered gold. We're going scorched earth. She drafted a legal statement with timestamps, transcripts, and context. Documented everything, the contract terms, the dinner conversation, the admission about the mortgage. Then sent it to every single mutual connection we had, friends, colleagues, even my florist. But we're not posting anything publicly yet, Leah said. Let them make the first move. Let them lie first. Let them try to control the narrative. Then we bury them with the truth. Make the contrast impossible to ignore. And they did. Oh, man, did they ever. Saturday morning, Claire posted a video. Full glam, soft lighting, sad piano music in the background. The whole production. A single tear rolling down her cheek. So perfectly timed. I almost wanted to applaud the effort. She must have done multiple takes to get that tear to fall at exactly the right moment. She called me controlling, said I isolated her from her family, that I refused to let her work or contribute to our relationship, that I made all the decisions and never considered her feelings, that I threatened her when she asked for fairness. No mention of the 20% equity grab. No mention of the hostile takeover dinner. No mention of the contract that would have given her parents control over my company. Just vague, manipulative half-truths and one Oscar-worthy performance. My phone exploded. Texts from friends asking if I was okay. DMs from people I barely knew demanding explanations. Even my cousin asked if I needed someone to talk to. Like I was the bad guy in this situation. Like I'd done something wrong by refusing to be exploited. I didn't say a word.
Not yet.
Leah had been clear. Let them commit to the lie. Let them build their narrative, then tear it down. But I'll admit, it stung more than I expected. Claire was winning the narrative. Her followers, thousands of them, were flooding the comments with crying emojis and stay strong, queen energy. I was being painted as the villain while she collected sympathy like donations at a telethon. People who'd never met either of us were passing judgment based on a carefully crafted video designed to manipulate their emotions. That night, Leah sent me a text. Post it now. So I did. Just the audio. No commentary, no hashtags, no sad piano music, no emotional appeals or defensive explanations. Just William, confident and smug, saying, with my experience, we could really expand. And then me, calmly asking about the mortgage. The whole recording played out, exactly as it happened. 23 minutes of damning evidence. It went viral in 4 hours. By Sunday morning, the internet had turned on Claire so fast it gave me whiplash. The comments on her video went from, men are trash, to, ma'am, this isn't feminism, it's fraud. People who'd been attacking me 12 hours earlier were now apologizing in my DMs. Strangers were tagging me in posts, calling Claire out. Someone found her LinkedIn and started commenting on her work history. Another person dug up an old interview where William bragged about his investment portfolio that apparently didn't exist anymore. Someone stitched the audio to her crying clip and titled it, When the Queen Falls Apart Mid-Heist. Another person made a whole breakdown video analyzing her body language in the original post versus the audio. A body language expert on YouTube did a 15-minute analysis of the dinner recording, pointing out every time William's voice shifted when he got nervous. Brutal. Hilarious. And deeply satisfying in a way I didn't expect. The memes started rolling in. Screenshots of Claire's tear with captions like, POV, the equity grab didn't work. William's quote about having friends in Brussels became a running joke. Someone made a fake movie poster titled, The Harrington Heist, with a tagline that said, based on a true audacity. By Monday, she deleted her account entirely. Disappeared from social media like she'd never existed. Her parents' accounts went private. The whole Harrington digital presence just evaporated. Even their family Christmas card photo got memed. Someone added $signs to their matching sweaters. I figured that would be the end of it. Drama over. Lesson learned. Move on with life. Start rebuilding whatever was left. But then came the final twist. The wedding venue. $40,000. Non-refundable. Paid in full. Same for the band, the florist, the catering, the custom neon sign that said the Harringtons. Yeah, her last name. Not mine. She'd ordered it without even discussing it. I only found out when I saw the invoice. Altogether, over $70,000 down the drain. $70,000 for a wedding to a woman who saw me as an investment opportunity. Now, I could have just written it off. Cost of tuition at the University of Red Flags. Expensive lesson, but a lesson nonetheless. Some people pay that much for business school and learn less.
But something inside me snapped.
Not out of pettiness. Out of principle. Out of a refusal to let all that money just evaporate while the people who tried to exploit me walked away clean. So I sent an invoice. Not to Claire. To William. A professional-grade invoice on Atlas Industrial Supply letterhead for consulting hours spent reviewing a fraudulent contract, plus relocation services for former fiancé's belongings, totaling $74,221. Itemized. Dated. Professional. I knew he wouldn't pay. That wasn't the point. The point was documentation. The point was making sure there was a paper trail that showed exactly what kind of people they were. Something for the record. Then I made a call to the venue manager, a woman named Gloria, who'd been incredibly patient with all our back and forth during the planning process. "Hey, so the wedding's off," I said. "But what if we turn the date into a charity gala?"
She paused.
"Excuse me? I already paid for the space, the food, the music. Everything's booked. I don't need a refund. I just want the night to matter. I want it to mean something instead of just being a waste." So, we partnered with a nonprofit that supports veterans transitioning to civilian life. They brought in speakers. We auctioned off donated items. Local businesses contributed when they heard the story. A furniture store donated a living room set. A car dealership threw in a year of free oil changes. Someone even donated a fishing trip. We raised $50,000 in one night. More than anyone expected. More than the wedding would have cost if you didn't count the emotional damage. I stood on the same stage where I was supposed to say vows and handed a check to a Marine named Kevin who'd lost his leg overseas. Afghanistan, 2 tours. He told me his story before the event started. How he'd come back different. Couldn't sleep.
Couldn't hold a job.
How the transition to civilian life almost broke him. How programs like this one kept him going when everything felt impossible. Gave him structure. Gave him purpose. Helped him find work and housing when nobody else would take a chance on him. His handshake was firm. His eyes were clear. He thanked me 3 times. And I told him he didn't need to thank me once, that he'd already done enough for all of us, that this was the least I could do. The venue manager, Gloria, told me later it was the best event she'd ever hosted. Said she wished more canceled weddings ended like this one. Said most people just eat the deposit and complain. I told her complaining wasn't really my style. I thought that would be it. Redemption arc complete, reputation restored. Move forward with life, and try to forget the whole mess. Then the letter came. No return address, just my name written in handwriting I recognized instantly.
Claire.
The loops in the letters. The way she crossed her T's. I'd seen that handwriting on birthday cards and grocery lists and notes left on the kitchen counter. I stared at it for a long minute before opening it. Curiosity won over caution. Inside, no threats, no manipulation, no legal language. Just a short, surprisingly human note. "Jake, I miss you.
You were right.
My parents were wrong. I'm staying at a friend's place now. I left them. Finally walked away from all of it. I just don't know who I am without all that noise.
Can we meet?"
No contracts, no pressure, no parents, just us. Coffee somewhere neutral. I just want to talk. I took a red Sharpie, wrote, "Return to sender," across the front, and dropped it in the outgoing mail tray without a second thought. A few weeks passed quietly. The storm Claire stirred up had blown over. The audio clip made its rounds. The story got picked up by a few business blogs. How a CEO dodged a corporate ambush disguised as a wedding. Catchy headline. Apparently, people kept sharing it. Then came the rumors. Apparently, William and Patricia lost the house. Big white colonial with the imported tiles.
Gone.
Foreclosed. Word is they're renting a 2-bedroom condo in a gated community where William now argues with the HOA about trash bins and parking rules. Claire, she's working at a car dealership 3 towns over. Receptionist position. Rumor says she's dating a junior finance guy who just discovered cryptocurrency. As for me, Alice Industrial Supply just opened a hub in Dallas. We're growing fast, hiring faster. My team is tighter than ever. And yeah, I'm dating again. Her name's Rachel. She's a school teacher. 6th grade social studies. Drives a Civic that's seen better days, but still runs because she knows how to take care of things. She brought her own lunch to our first date and insisted we split the check even though I tried to pay 3 times.
Made a whole argument about it.
She doesn't know anything about industrial equipment supply. Couldn't tell you the difference between a safety harness and a fall arrest system. And honestly, that's refreshing. Last weekend, I told her the whole story, from the envelope to the fundraiser to the letter I sent back unopened.
She didn't gasp.
She didn't pity me. She didn't ask probing questions about my net worth or company structure. She just looked me in the eye and said, "Well, you're clearly not boring." 6 months after the canceled wedding, I finally did something I'd been putting off for 12 years. I flew home, rented a car, drove 40 minutes to the cemetery where they buried my brother, Danny. I hadn't been there since the day after the funeral. The day I left early because a client called with an emergency order. I told myself I'd go back. Every year, I'd tell myself the same thing. And every year something came up. A contract, a deadline, an excuse. The cemetery was quiet, just me and the groundskeeper mowing somewhere in the distance. I walked past rows of headstones until I found his third row from the oak tree, just like I remembered. The headstone was simple, just his name, the dates, and a line our mom picked out. Gone too soon. Loved forever. I stood there for a long time. Didn't say anything at first. Just let the silence sit. Let it press against my chest until I couldn't hold it anymore. Then I told him. About the scholarship. About Claire. About Rachel. About the company hitting 8 figures and the warehouse in Dallas. I told him about the viral audio and William's bankruptcy. Told him everything I'd been saving up for 12 years of missed visits. The wind picked up while I was talking, rustled the leaves in the oak tree. Probably just weather, but I'd like to think he heard me. I'd partnered with 3 high schools and a community college. The Danny Grant. Full tuition, tools, and mentorship for kids who wanted to work trades. Kids like us. Kids who grew up without money or connections. Kids who'd never get a handout but would outwork anyone if you gave them half a chance. The applications had already started coming in. Hundreds of them. Kids with stories that hit you right in the chest. One kid wrote that he'd never owned anything with his name on it. He wanted to start with a work uniform, something that said he belonged somewhere. Another said she walked 2 miles to class every day because she didn't have a car, never missed a day, never complained. She wanted to learn to fix engines, maybe build one someday. A third kid talked about how his dad worked 3 jobs and still couldn't afford to send him to trade school. He wanted to become an electrician so his dad could finally retire. I read every single application. Took me 2 weeks. Some of them I read twice. These weren't kids looking for handouts. They were kids looking for a shot, a chance to prove what they could do if someone just opened the door. Rachel helped me pick the first 3 finalists. Said they reminded her of stubborn kids with good hearts. I asked her what that meant. She said, "You dummy." The scholarship gala was small. Nothing fancy. Just friends, family, former clients, and my warehouse crew. Rachel wore a blue dress and spent half the night talking to my operations manager about supply chain bottlenecks. She actually seemed interested. The first recipient was a 19-year-old named Jerome. He gave a speech that almost took me out. Talked about growing up in a 1-bedroom apartment with 3 siblings, sharing bunk beds, eating cereal for dinner when money was tight, fixing his mom's car with YouTube tutorials and borrowed tools because they couldn't afford a mechanic, working part-time jobs since he was 15 to help cover rent. He talked about applying to trade schools and getting rejected because he couldn't afford the application fees. About watching his friends give up on their dreams because nobody gave them a chance. About almost giving up himself until he saw the Danny Grant announcement. Then he looked right at me and said, "Mr. Jake didn't just write a check. He wrote a door and he let me walk through it. Where I come from, doors like that don't open very often. And when they do, you don't forget who held them open." The room was silent for a second. Then everyone started clapping. I had to sit down after that. My voice wasn't going to cooperate if I tried to speak. Rachel squeezed my hand. Didn't say anything.
Didn't need to.
3 weeks later, I got a call from Leah. "You're going to love this," she said. William Harrington just filed for bankruptcy. Chapter 7. Full liquidation. The house, the cars, the fake oil paintings, all of it going to auction. I didn't say anything for a second. Let it sink in. They tried to fight it, Leah continued. Hired some cut-rate attorney to argue they had assets overseas.
The judge didn't buy it.
Turns out those friends in Brussels William bragged about, they don't exist. Never did. The whole international business network was smoke and mirrors. And Claire? She moved to Arizona. Apparently, she's selling timeshares now. Lives in a studio apartment in Scottsdale. A far cry from the marble countertops. I laughed. actually laughed. Not out of spite, just at the sheer absurdity of how it all played out. A year ago, they were planning to take 20% of my company. Now, they were liquidating furniture to pay off creditors.
One more thing, Leah added.
Remember that invoice you sent him? The $74,000 one?
Yeah.
He listed it as a creditor claim in the filing, which means it's now part of the public bankruptcy record forever. Anyone who looks him up will see that he owed you money for, and I quote, consulting services related to fraudulent contract review. His attorney tried to get it removed. Judge said, no, it stays. I smiled. That's beautiful. I thought you'd appreciate that. The man who tried to steal 20% of your company now has a permanent public record showing he owed you money for trying to scam you. That's what we call poetic justice. Last month, Rachel and I took a weekend trip. Cabin upstate. No cell service, no spreadsheets, no emails pinging at 2 a.m. about delayed shipments or vendor issues. She brought puzzles. I brought a book I'd been meaning to read for 3 years. Finally cracked the spine. The place was buried in pine trees. One of those old wooden cabins with a porch that creaked, a fireplace that actually worked. No TV, no Wi-Fi. Just silence and trees and the occasional bird making noise outside. We cooked dinner together. Nothing fancy. Just pasta and garlic bread. She hummed while chopping vegetables, barefoot on the tile, completely at ease, not trying to impress anyone. Not checking her phone every 5 minutes. Just present. I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd done that. Just been somewhere without thinking about what was next, without running numbers in my head or planning for problems that hadn't happened yet. After dinner, we sat on the porch watching stars. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen that many. In the city, you forget they're there. Light pollution blocks everything out. But up there, the sky was packed with them. You know what I keep thinking about, she said. What? That $70,000 wedding. All that money, all that planning, and it would have been the worst decision of your life. Probably. So, technically you made $70,000 by not getting married. I laughed. That's not how math works. Sure it is. You avoided a bad investment. That's profit. She had a point. Atlas Industrial hit 8 figures last quarter. First time ever. We broke ground on a second warehouse in Houston. The Dallas hub is already running at capacity, so we needed more space. I promoted my operations manager to VP and finally took my name off the emergency contact list. Let the team handle things. Turns out they're better at it than I was. My phone doesn't buzz at midnight anymore. I sleep through the night. Weekends are actually weekends now. Still feels strange sometimes, but I'm getting used to it. Jerome started his apprenticeship at a garage downtown. Sends me updates every few weeks. Pictures of engines he's rebuilt, tools he's learning to use, diagrams he's studying. Last week, he texted me a photo of his first paycheck stub. Just the stub. No caption needed. I knew what it meant. First money he'd ever earned doing something he actually wanted to do. I saved that text, put it in a folder on my phone with the other updates from scholarship recipients. 4 of them now, each one sending progress reports like they're afraid I'll forget about them. I won't. Rachel's already planning next year's scholarship gala. She wants to double the recipients, expand to 2 more schools, maybe add a vocational track for healthcare workers. I told her that sounded expensive. She said, "Good thing you're not boring." The other day, I was cleaning out my desk and found the original contract. The one Claire slid across the kitchen island. 20% equity. Audit rights. Veto power over transactions. 8 pages of legal language designed to strip away everything I'd built. I read through it one more time. All those clauses designed to trap me. All that careful wording meant to make it sound reasonable. Family partnership. Shared success. Protecting our future together. Every phrase crafted to hide what it really was, a heist. I thought about framing it, putting it on my office wall as a reminder of how close I came to losing everything. But that felt wrong, like keeping a trophy from a war you never asked to fight. So, I shredded it. Fed it through the machine, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but confetti. Watched the strips pile up in the bin. 8 pages reduced to ribbons. Took about 30 seconds. Felt like closing a chapter that should have ended a long time ago. I dumped the confetti in the trash and went back to work. So, what do you guys think? Have you ever had to walk away from something huge, even if it felt impossible at the time because your gut was screaming that something was fundamentally wrong? How did you know it was time to cut your losses and stand your ground? I really want to hear your stories in the comments below. ***.